And welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts. Metro Councilman at Large and Democratic Operative Jerry Maynard, and heard daily on 1510 WLAC, syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Gentlemen, welcome. Hope you had a great Christmas. We look forward to New Year.
Awesome.
We are taping this because of the holiday schedule right before Christmas. So let's talk about the fiscal cliff, which we don't know at this point what happened, although we do know John Boehner suffered a big defeat in the House. Will we go over the cliff? Will we solve the issue?
I think we're going to go over the cliff. I think what's going to happen on January 3rd, the Senate will come up with a plan of action. I predict it will be about a $500,000 where the rates will go up on people making $500,000 and more. I believe that Obama will then sign off on that. They will then go back to the House and tell John Boehner, hey, get the Democrats. All the Democrats will vote for it, and Boehner will have to deliver 30 to 40 Republicans on that side. It will pass the House because I don't think that Cantor and Boehner will not allow a vote to come on to the floor, and then you will have your cliff hanger will be resolved, but what will happen after the cliff is taken.
I think that's probably about right on the money. I think you're going to see it come after the fact, and I think that Jerry's exactly right. Democrats are going to pass this, much like they forced the stimulus without any Republican help. They forced Obamacare without any Republican help. They forced the bailout of General Motors that is now going to cost us about $13 or $14 billion in lost tax dollars without any Republican help. They may be able to get 30 or 40 Republicans. They only need about 16 if they get all the Democrats, and they'll raise taxes. It will still cut jobs, kill jobs, and not do anything to deal with the $1 trillion a year budget deficit we have.
How much will it hurt you, me, and all of us in our 401ks and the like if it does go over the cliff, even if they do resolve it afterwards? Initially, there's going to be a big impact.
It's going to hurt.
I think the bigger impact is what it does in terms of lost jobs, in terms of the overall economy. You're already seeing a lot of fear. You're already seeing as we go in the new year. Look at how many companies are pre-dividending, moving money into this year.
Before the end
You're
of the
going
year.
to see the first quarter next year be an absolute chaos disaster. And it's going to happen in part because of Obamacare going into effect, in part because of the continued effects of the economic missteps we've taken, a stimulus that hadn't reduced the unemployment rate considerably. We've got a tough year coming.
The economy is growing. The unemployment rate will continue to go down. In the first quarter, though, it's going to bump up because of what Steve said, because people don't know what's going to happen. But after they pass the legislation on January 3rd, what's going to happen is you're going to have confidence in the market, and you're going to have the unemployment continue to go down. The economy is going to continue to grow. The problem that we're going to have is that our credit will go down again. And if our credit goes down again and takes another hit, it will cost us more money to borrow money, which means when we're repaying that money, instead of paying $500, we'll be paying $1,000. And that's where the real injury will come to our government.
As we get through the holidays, we, of course, are mourning the folks up in Connecticut. The shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. The vice president has been put on part of a panel to look at the possibility of future gun control legislation. Once we get through the holidays, get to the new year, will this issue be discussed, be debated? Will something actually happen, or will it go away again like it has in the past?
It's not going to go away because Obama said we're going to do something. And I believe that you're going to have legislation which will have a national background check requirement. It will have a ban on weapons for war that will be banned. So you'll have your automatic and semi-automatic assault weapons will be banned. Here's what I don't know. I don't know whether you will get Republican support in the House in order to pass comprehensive reform, or whether it will be more of a band-aid and it'll be watered down so much that it really doesn't impact a person in the market going to buy a gun.
I think the best news is that the guy the president has put in charge of eviscerating the Second Amendment is Joe Biden, who is also going to make sure that the stimulus package didn't have any fraud, waste, or abuse. And that was before things like the $500 million that was lost on Solyndra, hundreds of billions of dollars lost. So the same guy in charge of making sure the stimulus worked is going to be in charge of taking America's guns. The other thing that struck me with the DCS story earlier this half hour, more kids have died in DCS custody in Tennessee this last year than died at Sandy Hook Elementary School. That ought to put how bad DCS, how bad we're handling children in this state in perspective. More kids died in Tennessee in our state custody than died in that school.
I want to talk about the gun control because you have senators right now, senators who have been strong NRA supporters and received an A or A+ grading.
Joe Manchin and
they're
West
all
Virginia.
coming out now and saying, Senator Reid out of Nevada, they're all coming saying we must do something. So Bob, something's going to get done. The question will become, will it be so watered down that you really don't have a difference, or will they really take a stand and they will really pass legislation that really reforms how we deal with guns?
Here in Tennessee, there's a proposal to arm teachers teachers. The NRA has come out with a proposal to put armed police officers in schools. The police officer aspect, probably not a bad idea. SRO officers in many schools are already armed. The question, I guess, is who pays for this? It's going to be a taxpayer expense, a state expense, a federal expense. Someone's going to have to pay for it.
We've been cutting our budgets over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know where you get the money to have a resource officer in every school. Our school budgets have been cut, and I don't know where you get the money. You can't have it both ways. If you want to arm and make sure that we have resource officers in every school, you got to pay the money. And so we need to get that money from all of these people who are recommending that we do it.
I don't think it should just be an economic issue, but at the same time, you have teachers in our schools that if somebody coming to that school doesn't know how many guns there are, how many trained people to use guns are in that school, they don't know where the shots are going to be coming at them. And we've seen in these shooting tragedies, time after time after time, they stop when people arrive with guns, whether it's the cops or whether it is civilians who happen to be armed. That's when these things stop.
Now, I don't agree with that. I'm not going to send my kid to a school where teachers are armed and principals are armed. Guess what? You have a deranged person who goes in there and he's got armor on. He's got a helmet on and a gas mask. He goes in with a semi-automatic weapon of war. And so if you have your 9mm or your Glock and you're trying to shoot this person, you're going to get killed because he's got armor on. And so you won't be able to take care of him. And what happens is more people will get shot. Plus, we don't know whether the teachers will be trained, whether they'll be competent enough to even deal with a situation like that. I want the police officers to deal with that, who are trained people who know how to handle a situation like that.
The situation that Jerry just described has not happened. And keep in mind that at Sandy Hook Elementary School, it took the police officers 20 minutes to arrive. In Columbine, they stayed outside for hours. We have seen these situations where when seconds matter, it takes the police minutes to get there. And frankly, if we had the opportunity to put guns into the hands of those teachers to shoot back at this guy in Sandy Hook Elementary School, they would have been shooting back long before the cops arrived.
Bob, if the seconds matters, that's why you do not have ammunition and weapons that can shoot rounds where you can shoot 100 rounds in less than a minute. That's why we have to have a ban on semi and automatic weapons of war, and you got to have a ban on the ammunition and where it's contained in, because seconds do matter.
Again, Jerry's describing a situation that did not happen at Sandy Hook Elementary School. It was not an automatic weapon, and you're not firing 100 rounds in just a moment. It is one shot, one bullet with each trigger pull. That's the kind of weapon, whether you're using a revolver or a semi-automatic.
Minutes ago, will there be some kind of gun control legislation, yes or no, next year?
Yes.
They'll do something that they'll paper over and call it that. Whether it has any real impact, it may be raising taxes on ammunition. It may be the same sort of thing we had with the assault weapons ban. That, by the way, the 1994 assault weapons ban would not have banned the weapon that was used at Sandy Hook.
Will the so-called guns in trunk bill pass in Tennessee this year?
Gotta hope not.
I think it will. Again, the gun in the trunk has never killed anybody.
Will 4th District Congressman Scott Desjardins be a congressman at the end of next year?
No.
No.
We'll find out. Steve Gill, Jerry Maynard, appreciate your time and your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.